Okay, please excuse some of the problems I'm having with the video. I'm using you guys as a guinea pigs and find out you can't click on documents while you're talking on the video. I think last time I ended up talking about the end of kind of where we were at with painting and just talking about the importance of getting good paint, going to places like Behr, B-E-H-R, which is sold at Home Depot, their enamel paint. Using good paint, using rollers, throwing the rollers away, all the different kinds of things, learning about paint from people who do it, using large brushes for edging. Now you may not want to do paint at all. That means is you've got to negotiate better in the end for the things that you can't afford to do yourself but have to pay other people to do. On plumbing, we talked a little bit about being a handyman. There's certain things you can learn pretty easily. I've changed faucets, done some minor plumbing, moved some hookups for washer and dryer, things like that. If you're not comfortable with that, then my recommendation is you go to the local hardware store or Angie's List, which the link is out on your website, and you find inexpensive guys, that people who are like 1 or 2 employee companies who work out of a panel truck. They'll be a lot cheaper than hiring a big plumbing company. I have a guy that basically his wife is two guys, an electrician and a plumber, whose wives are successful, and they work on the side, and they're very inexpensive to hire to do these things. That's where that network, that the Blue Book on real estate that we're using as an ancillary kind of a book maybe for the final, talks a lot about having the network of people you use all the time that you can trust. Drywall looks complicated. I don't know if I drywall a whole house. It's so cheap to have it hung and finished, and it's such a long, dirty job to do yourself. But fixing drywall is really easy to do. And if we were in class, I'd demo on a wall how to fix a hole in the wall. But again, a typical lumberyard can give you tips, and it's just overcoming your fear and trying it. A trim work, you could get a power miter box and cut your own trim. You can rent the power nailer, or you probably have a friend who has a power nailer, which is a great way to put trim on. It's a lot harder to pound the nails, set the nails, and fill them. Decks, probably the easiest thing to learn how to do is a deck. I mean, my kids, when they were teenagers, the boys, I would get their friends over, and I would just supervise, give them a plan, and have them build a deck. And kids could do it, and I would pay them, and they just thought it was great. You can get a deck book at a lumberyard, get the wood delivered, and get tips on how to do it, and that would be a great confidence builder if you've not ever done any of this before. Light carpentry you can learn. Again, you probably have a friend who's handy. Bring them along, learn from them. It's a great way to do it. Eventually, you could do roofing if you wanted to. It's not that hard to do. Siding is time consuming, but you can do electric. I have a brother who's an electrician, so we trade off. You might have somebody who's an electrician. You can do some work for them. They could do some electrical work for you, or you could hire them inexpensively. Heating and cooling. I have a guy I found, is a Christian guy. He actually works at the jail as a chaplain, and he works as a maintenance guy in a building during the day. He'll come out and work for hardly any money and fix my heating and cooling problems. You've got to find people. You can't use these big companies. It's too expensive. You've got to find people, and you can put a lock on the door. They can come in. You can buy one of those locks pretty inexpensively, a push-button code lock. They can come in during the day, do the work while you're at work, leave you an invoice. You can give them a credit card number. It's not hard to use subcontractors that way. I have one guy living in my house who's a heating and cooling guy. He just changed a fan on an old furnace. The fan was $200. He installed it for free because he wants to have a relationship with me. In that same house, a previous owner stripped all the wallpaper, basically put primer on all those walls, painted all those walls just to impress her mother, who was coming from Arizona. I paid her like $100 to $150 per room, which was a deal. Could have paid that much to paint the room. She stripped the wallpaper, washed the walls, primed them, and painted them. So sometimes you can find inexpensive labor by having handy people live in your house. Just let them show you what they can do with one room before you cut them loose on the whole house. Floor covering, some of that you can do, but there's a lot of companies that do discount flooring just for realtors, and those are good companies to go to that sell volume, because they have installers and they have people who can do it pretty inexpensively. Sometimes you can buy the carpet and you can find an installer who will work for not very much money on the side. Other large projects, when you do subcontracts, you know, you can go to Staples and get contracts that are pretty good contracts for using subs. If you're going to use larger companies, make sure they have insurance, so if they get injured, they're covered, or if they burn your house down, you're covered. Get people that you can trust. You know, you can go out and again measure them on places like Angie's List, or see how they're rated online in terms of what they do. All those kinds of things are based upon their work, and you'll get more and more comfortable. Life is a series of fears that you overcome with information, developing confidence, and then you get prideful, and then God lets you go through the cycle one more time with fear and having to build confidence. But the only way you can grow is to keep trying new things and stepping out beyond your comfort zones. You might want to schedule maintenance on your properties. You know, when are windows going to be done? I did list windows up here. Sometimes you can do replacement windows. Sometimes it's just cheaper to do the glass. Sometimes in these newer houses, all you have to do is buy the glass and put it in, and it's really, I mean, you can have somebody install the glass for $1,000 in a whole house, and if they change out the windows, it's going to be $4,000 or $5,000. So sometimes all you need to do is change the glass because it's lost its seal and it's let air in between the panes. But schedule the maintenance. It might be windows, roofs. It could be just painting, landscape work, trimming of trees and shrubs. Schedule that stuff so you can plan for it financially ahead. And let's say you get into a house and you're not cash flowing very much, and all of a sudden there's a lot of maintenance needs and you're getting tired of doing this. That would be a good time to bring in a financial partner, make that person pay for the equity that you have in the business. That would free up an awful lot of capital for improvements, and then you could share the ownership with that person. I mean, there's always a way to solve the problem if you're just creative. You can always pick up the phone and call people like me and say, what do I do next? But I think maintaining the property, I send a note out in the fall telling my renters to clean out the gutters and downspouts. Either have that professionally done or do it themselves, because that will ruin your downspouts and your roofing if they don't. Sometimes I send reminders out to do the grass. Again, a lot of management is holding them accountable from day one. If you have high expectations, tell them the grass is too long, that you don't want this to look like a rental in a subdivision. Once you start doing that on a regular basis, then they'll expect a higher outcome, and they'll start performing better. Not always, but most of the time they will. Sometimes, like I said, you can get the renters to do the work. I would just make sure they're capable. I've had them do building. I had a guy take a loft and turn it into a bedroom. He built a shed behind the house. I've had people put flooring in that were very, very good. I've had people do painting. Again, if that's their profession and that's what they do. Now, what I don't do is I don't allow them to reduce the rent. They always pay the rent, and then I write them a separate check, because I don't ever want them to get confused about what the business relationship is. That's hugely important. Keep business apart from any emotion you have. You're not a social worker. Generally speaking, when you do something really nice for somebody, they remember it about 5 minutes. I'm guessing in 2 weeks they wouldn't even remember that you helped them out. So keep the business and what they're doing for you, or what you want to do for them on a friendship level, separate. My family likes to help another family every Christmas. Sometimes we just go and put a bunch of money on a Walmart card so the family can have Christmas. But I don't ever reduce the rent. They pay the rent and I give the gift. Same with contractors that are living in my houses. They do the work. I pay them for the work. The rent thing is a totally different thing. That's an important concept to remember. So again, the basic contracts you can find in Home Depot. Again, find an attorney that you trust, that's inexpensive, that will look over contracts. When I need a contract from an attorney, I usually tell them I need a boilerplate. A boilerplate is a basic contract that they don't have to alter very much. I don't want to pay for them to rewrite a whole new contract of some kind for me. I just want them to check the one I have and tell me what's good and not good about it. Okay? So that's some of the general stuff I wanted to get done last night. Because we're going to have a speaker some night, I'm going to push forward and do the Realtor Code of Ethics on a separate video for you. So hopefully this works out good for us. We'll see. Thanks.